In this section, we're going to talk about stem and leaf plots. You may have done them before in an earlier grade, but they're a great way to kind of visually be able to analyze data. So in a stem and leaf plot, numerical data are listed in ascending or descending order. It's usually ascending, meaning from least to greatest. The greatest place values of the data are used for the stems. And one important thing you know about the stems can be more than one digit. They may not be, but they're allowed to be. The least place values form the leaves. And these must be only one digit. So the stem is allowed to have more than one digit, but the leaves cannot. That'll make more sense once we do some examples down below. So this table shows the average weight in pounds of different breeds of adult dogs. Display the data in a stem and leaf plot. Okay, so the smallest I see is 4, and the biggest I think is 26. So this ranges from 4 to 26. So it seems appropriate that we could make the stem the tens place. So we do need to give this a title. We use the same title they have here. Adult dog weight. And then our stem, we don't have to label these. We really just can say stem and leaf. Our stem will use 0, 1, and 2 because the 0 has to be placed there for the single digit numbers because they have nothing in the tens place. This will be the numbers 10 through 19. This will cover the numbers 20 through 29. So let's look at the single digits we have. So we have 4, 6, 8, and then 2 nines. Now we do need to list them in order from least to greatest. So the smallest we have is a 4. Cross that off so I know I've used it. Next we have a 6. So we put that there. Next we have an 8. Then we have 2 nines. Now if you have a number show up twice in the data, you need to also make sure it shows up twice in the leaves. So that covers everything from 0 to 9. So now we look at 10 through 19. So I see a 10, so let's go ahead and mark that one. So I put a 0 here, because this is the tens place, a 1. This is the ones place, 0, so that's 10. Then I see an 11 here, so I put a 1, because that's 10 and 1, meaning 11. Then 13, so I put a 3. 15, so I put a 5. 17, so I put a 7. And 18, so I put an 8. So I listed all the numbers in order, 10 through, well, we didn't have a 19, but that's what that line ranges from. You can put anything 10 through 19 there. Sorry. Now for the 20s, I see a 20 even, so I put 2, 0 for 20. Put a 1 for 21. And it looks like the last ones are 4, 5, 6. So 24, 25, 26. So I put a 4, a 5, and a 6. So we're just focusing right now on being able to make the stem and leaf plot. But just to help you understand why it's beneficial, this, much more than just looking at this table, this shows us what they gathered was pretty evenly spread out. Now there is one more number in the tens category, the teens, you want to call it that, than there is in the zeros and the 20s. But really, this is pretty evenly spread out between 4 and 26. As you can see, the length of each leaf row is about the same. We can also pretty easily see there aren't a whole lot of repeats. The only repeat we see, in fact, is 9. So this can also be a quick way to find the mode if you need to. Okay, next one. The number of minutes Will spent exercising are shown. Display the data in a stem and leaf plot. So I will again give it a title, exercising. I did not spell that correctly. Let me try that again. Exercising time in minutes. Notice I'm just using the same title that I have here. Stem and leaf. Okay, so here I see it ranges, looks like 10 is the smallest, but it goes up to 65 in fact. So I'm still going to use the tens place as my stem, but I can start with just a 1. I don't need to put a 0 there because there is nothing below 10. So you are allowed to start your stem at a number above 0 because you can just start where the smallest value is. So if this had been the smallest value was 20, we could just start with a stem of 2. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So since the lowest was 10, the highest was in the 60s, I put stems from 1 through 6. So let's look for 1. So I see a 15 and the 10. So there's just 2 that go in the tens place, 0 and 5. That represents 10 and 15. I just realized I forgot something on the first one. Oh no. There's one part of the stem and leaf plot I forgot to do, and that's called the key or the legend. So to do that, you have to pick one number that's actually inside here. You could do any one you want. I just chose to pick 13. So we have a 1 here and a 3 here. So you write 1, then a straight line, and a 3 to show this represents the stem because it's on the left side of the line. This represents the leaf because it's on the right side of the line. And we tell them that equals 13 pounds. And the reason they do that is because normally people you're displaying this to wouldn't see this over here. They'd only see what you have here. And there are times where they might do things in the hundreds or the thousands, and while it just says 1, 3, they really mean that's 1,300 or 13,000. So that's why this key is important to do. Okay, back to exercise time. Next up we have 20s. Let me cross these off. No 20s in that row. There's a 20 and a 28 and a 23. So 0, 3, 8 in the 20s. So next up we have the 30s. I see 30 minutes, another 30 minutes, 38 and 39. So 2 zeros for the 30 minutes, an 8 for the 38, and a 9 for the 39. So far his most frequent length of time is in the 30 to 40 minute range, or 30 to 39 minute range. Now we look for 4s. I see a 40, I see a 42, and 2 45s. So a 40, 40, 42, 42, and then 2 45s. So I'll put 2 5s here in that range. Now if you look, there's none in the 50s. So we'll just leave this leaf line blank. But that's helpful still because it shows us there was not a time collected where he spent 50 to 59 minutes exercising. But there were some times he spent 60 or 65. So that's our stem and leaf plot, except, I'm not going to forget it again, you need to do the key. Now, you do need to pick a value that's actually in here, but it doesn't matter which one you pick. So if you're like, I'm going to pick the 10, and you use 1, 0, great. If you're like, I want to pick 23, you pick the 2, 3, that's fine. So you can pick any of them that are actually in here. I'm just going to pick 38, just because. So 30 straight line, or 3 straight line 8 for 38. And that means 38 minutes of exercise. Okay, now this side is going to work on actually interpreting them. So we looked at how to make them, how to make stem leaf plots on the front. Now we're going to look at how do we interpret them, how do we gather data from them. So this stem leaf plot is showing the number of wins in one season for a varsity softball, for various softball teams. So it says find the median and the mode. I'm going to find the mode first because I'll be crossing off numbers when I do the median. So for the mode, I'm looking for repeats. So no repeats in this line. Oh, we have 3 4s right there. That seems like a strong candidate. Okay, there's 2 9s there and 2 0s there. But you only want to look at one line at a time because I know like, oh, there's 3 9s right here. But these two are 39. This one is a 49. So you only want to look for duplicates within one row. So here's our mode. It's 24. So the mode is 24. And it's 24 wins. Now for the median, I'll do the same thing I did when I did it in a long list horizontally. Cross off the first and the last, first and the last, first and the last, and keep repeating this process. Okay, I got off by 1, I'm sorry. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that is correct. So this ends up being the median, which means the median is 38 wins. Sorry, my pen's starting to go dry and I missed a mark there. So that's what happened. But anyway, so something else we can figure out, what is the difference between the least and the greatest number of wins? Well, the biggest number of wins is 51. The least number is 18, and difference means we subtract. So I'll do 51 minus 18, and I can find that just by looking at the top here to get the lowest and the bottom to get the biggest. And 51 minus 18 is 33 wins. So that is the greatest difference. Or that is the difference between the least and the greatest number of wins. Okay, now this one is called a split stem and leaf plot. It's two-sided, it goes 2 directions. So just to make sure you understand what they're saying, this is talking about snowfall. So for Buffalo, they had a 1-inch snowfall, a 1-inch snowfall, a 3-inch snowfall, a 9-inch snowfall. Syracuse had a 1-inch, a 4-inch, and a 9-inch. So they still go least to greatest, but they do start at the right and then move to the left on this side of it. But this first line is showing all the times either Syracuse or Buffalo had a snowfall of 0 to 9. This line shows it from 11 to 19. This side shows it from 20 to 29, and so on. But it shows it for both cities. So in general, which city has the lower amount of monthly snowfall? So I want you to look at that for a moment and consider that. Is it, based on what we see here, is it Syracuse or Buffalo that has less snowfall? It'd be Buffalo. Buffalo has less. So I'm going to write some things down, but just visually, if you see, well, all these numbers are closer to 0. It never goes higher than 27, whereas these numbers are more spread out. It goes as high as 40. So we have a clear indication that Syracuse gets more snow because things are spread out more to the bigger numbers than they are in Buffalo. So we could say Buffalo because its accumulation never goes higher than 27. So it never goes higher than 27 inches. While Syracuse goes up to 40 inches. So we were able to observe that just from the stem and leaf plot. Okay, last question. Which city has more varied amount of snowfall? So varied means more differences, like it's got a wider range or it's just got a lot more variety than having the same length or close to this, not length, same depth or amount of snow over and over. So if we're talking about how much it's varied, the more spread out it is in this table, the more varied it is. So Syracuse would have a more varied amount. Because buffaloes are kind of all tied up in the 0 to 27 range, or 1 to 27 range, whereas Syracuse goes from 1 all the way to 40. So it's more spread out. So you could just say Syracuse because its snowfall accumulation is more spread out.